EIU head coach Chris Wilkerson, the team coming off a 1-point overtime victory, 2-point conversion, won it for the Panthers against Bryant. They have their open date. They will be back in action at Lindenwood on November 4th. That's three. They'll have 3 straight conference games to finish out the season. They're now 5-3 overall. So, Coach, some thoughts on the game, and we'll get some questions in.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. No, I just, I was real proud of the guys. We've been going for 12 straight weeks. We reported for preseason camp July 30th and been going and going and going and going and going. So, the whole message was just to try to finish and find a way. And they did. So they had great effort. We found a way against a very veteran, very well-coached, talented Bryant football team. And, certainly it wouldn't be, I guess, an Eastern Illinois football game this year if it didn't come down to the very end. So we had a choice to make, and we had talked again all week about being aggressive and playing to win. And, ran a play that we practiced very well the last couple of weeks, and Pierce found a way to get over the goal line. So had some guys continue to step up. Our backs were a little banged up. MJ Flowers and Kevin Daniels went down during the course of the game, and some other guys stepped in. Kendi Young's a guy that's, been an OVC all league performer during player of the week during his career. And Jawan Faree is a guy that we kind of expected some big things from this year, and it just hasn't worked out for those guys. But as many have, they continue to be ready. And when their number was called, they responded. And so it was great poise, belief, and finish. And certainly we are well into the bye week and a lot of stuff to get done this week, but proud of their efforts.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go to some questions. Dan, wherever you got, fire away.
Well, you mentioned the 2-point play, and you talked about, the play that you wanted on that you had practiced. Was that kind of predetermined you'd use that play, or was it more dictated by the situation at the time?
No, it was so we've got a list of 2-point plays that we worked during the week. And, we had kind of used one of them earlier in the game in a short yardage situation. So we had a couple plays to choose from, but the primary play that we had practiced and felt best about was certainly the one that we chose at the end. And we didn't execute it exactly perfect, but they found a way to get over the goal line and get the 2 points that were needed. So bottom line is we wanted the ball in Pierce's hands with a couple different options, and we found a way to get it across the goal line.
One thing I noticed is that your 2 outer linemen, circled back in and pushed. Was that part of the play, or did those guys just react and do that on their own?
No. So we did have, again, there was some miscommunication in terms of how they were going to block the front. And one of the guys came off a little bit early, and that provided a little bit of flack right in the hole. And so he kind of got stood up right at the goal line. And one of those guys just kind of peeled back and tried to help, kind of usher him over the goal line. And like I said, he just barely got across, but it was just enough. So, hey, we've been on the shorthand of that a couple times this year, and it just worked out for us this last Saturday.
I want to switch to talk about your secondary. I know you've talked about them a lot this year, but just statistically, I know they're high in the rankings with interceptions. You guys as a team lead the nation in turnover margin. Just give me some thoughts on your secondary and to this point of the season.
Yeah. So, first of all, Clay Bignell, our defensive coordinator, does a phenomenal job, and he works with our safeties on a daily basis. Maurice Fleming Jr. is our corners coach, and he also does a phenomenal job with those guys on a day-to-day basis in terms of fundamentals and being demanding and accountability. And those guys have gotten better, and that's what coaching's all about, right? You want to attract, you want to retain, and you want to develop players. And so they've done that. Andrew Brady also coaches our Foxes. They're kind of part of our secondary as one of the undercover guys or the nickels. And all of them have just continued to improve. So we've been blessed to be able to recruit some guys and retain them and then develop them here. But, the turnover thing is something that we talked about long and hard as a football team, as a staff, and it's been a big emphasis for us, and it's certainly paid off. It's allowed us to stay in football games, taking better care of the football, but certainly taking it away as a defense. So there's a ton of guys that step up. There's a ton of competition, and that makes us all better. The corners have primarily been certainly Russ Dandy, who's one of the nation's leaders in passes broken up, as one of our veteran corners. Tyrus Harvey's our field corner and does a phenomenal job as well. And then in the secondary, the safeties, certainly Mark Aiken, one of our captains, has been very active and is a great leader. Blake Ruffin has just continued to improve and just has such good instincts. And then Kalen Drakeford's a guy, those 3 guys are basically all starters, and they just continue to roll through. And a number of other guys whose numbers have been called have always been ready. So I'm proud of what they've done so far, but I know they've got some improvement to do and need some much needed rest this week.
Yeah, one more, and then I'll turn over to Kyle. Just have to ask you about how you're kind of using the bye week. I know you talked about, fixing some things and moving forward. I guess
Oh yeah.
specifically
So
what do you have in mind?
there's a ton of stuff that we've got during the bye week. So as a coaching staff, certainly Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we'll practice. They had Sunday, Monday off, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we practice. The practice is very much focused on fundamentals and reteaching some things and allowing some younger guys to get some more repetition and kind of see where they're at. We don't really have any first years left in our football program. We're 12 weeks in. Those guys might as well be second year college football players. So we're going to get some reps and look at some guys and do some evaluations. Certainly for a lot of guys that have played a high volume of snaps, it's about trying to recover a little bit mentally, emotionally, and physically over the next week. We as a coaching staff do some, every week we do self-scout, but you get a chance to do a little more in-depth self-scouting and analysis on kind of what we're doing and are we becoming a little predictable in certain situations. So we want to make sure that we double check that stuff. Certainly we do some game planning already on our next opponent. They play this weekend. So, we'll have a base game plan ready to go, and we'll gain an extra day of practice on Monday next week as our players will be off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But you want to verify that stuff before you really teach them the game plan. So we'll wait on that. And then we do a little fundraising, me as the head coach and as an entire staff, it's recruit. So, there's no time to rest for anybody. And we've got a lot of things we can do as a staff, but certainly our players need to recover a little bit, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and get ready for the stretch run. So we're 12 weeks down, get this week to bye, and then 3 weeks to go to finish it out.
Thanks again.
No, thank you.
You said stretch run there, coach. So you got 3 games obviously after the open date. And if you win, you're going to be 8-3. So whether you would get to win the conference, you'd be right there in playoff contention. So I guess the destiny's sort of in your hands from here on out.
It is. And listen, we still are very focused on Eastern Illinois. We can't control what other teams do. We can't control who other teams play. We can't control what polls say. All we can control is our attitude and our approach and our response every single day. And that's what we're going to focus on. Every week it's Eastern Illinois versus Eastern Illinois here. And that's what we've got to do. There are some areas that we certainly know we have improved in. And there's a ton of areas that we still need to grow and improve in over these last 3 weeks if we want to have a chance to be successful at the end of each of those opportunities. But right now, again, we're focused on trying to get a little better fundamentally today and evaluate some younger guys and starting to certainly look at our next opponent and then we'll go total focus on Lindenwood starting on Monday.
The last question I have, and this from a curiosity standpoint, 2-point conversion, since it's now a lot more prevalent in the NFL and college, how's that changed since when you were a player? Like were you all running that many 2-point plays in practice back then where it's totally changed. Am I right?
It has changed a lot. Certainly the overtime rules themselves, because, you got a chance certainly to go for 2 anytime you choose. But when you're in overtime, the second overtime, you've got to go for 2. And then if you're still tied at the end of that overtime, you're going to do nothing but run 2-point plays. So there are weeks when we go into the game plan with, 6 or 7 2-point plays on our 2-point play section of our offensive game plan. And the same thing on defense. I mean, we spend a ton of time analyzing what teams have done and what their 2-point plays are. And you'll go back and you'll look 2 or 3 years and try to find something, even when a coordinator was at another school and see a play that he ran. So they're critical situations and hey, we had a chance and didn't execute very well in one situation. We had a chance and executed a little better and we were successful. But the most important thing is, again, we're going to be aggressive and play to win. Our guys work so hard and it's nice to see them validated with a victory, but we've got a lot of things to focus on just on ourselves.
Well, Coach, thanks for your time this morning. Hope the open date treats your team well, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks a million. Go Panthers.